it's Luana. I was thinking that I should share with you some images from my recent trip to Kauai because, there's such a topic of eggs and chickens these days. And I thought you'd like to hear the story of what we learned while we were in Kauai. So, there are four larger islands in Hawaii, and I have been many times to the larger islands. So, Oahu, the big island of Hawaii, and Maui. But this is the first time that I've been to Kauai. And I learned that it is overrun with wild chickens. And I'm going to tell you the story of that. But I also know that, the topic of eggs and chickens is really on a lot of people's minds these days because the price of eggs has been going up in many places. And I think that that is partially due to the fact that they are now asking the egg producers to have the chickens in more humane uh, enclosures instead of being crammed into tiny cages. And maybe you yourself have been doing this already. I've been buying cage-free eggs for a long time. But now that those big egg producers are, instead of putting, cramming 10 chickens in a tiny little cage, or maybe 20,000 chickens crammed into an indoor shed, they're coming up with more humane ways that are less abusive to the chickens. Anyway, that means that a lot of you are getting chickens in your backyards, right? So we have kind of a joke around here at Equilter that every season, every time there's a new release and all the sales reps comes, there's always going to be 2 or 3 or 4 chicken collections. And we always laugh about it and kind of roll our eyes, but um, chickens sell. And we always carry chicken fabrics for those of you who love to make quilts and crafty items with chicken fabric. So having said that, I'm just going to show you a few of the ones that we have in stock now that are most popular. So this is kind of a Polish or Ukrainian folk art. This is one of our exclusive Reuben fabrics. And this is a tea towel with chickens on it. In case you don't know this, we carry tea towels and they're quite popular with our customers. This is a great chicken panel that could be, oh heck, made into a chicken pillowcase, or you could get 2 of them and make it into a pillowcase, or you could get a few of them and make it into a quilt, or make a bag, a shopping bag, something like that. This is a really sweet panel of a little black girl at the farm playing with her little baby chicks, which we love. And there's a stylized chicken stripe there. Here's another one of these big, I happen to love this one. This is one we have quite a bit of stock on right now. This very artistic, painterly chicken panel that, of course, you can make into placemats or cut it up and make a quilt. And of course, chicken coordinates are something that you absolutely need if you're going to make a chicken themed quilt, right? Then you can have chicken dreams and you've got the whole thing coordinated. So we have 3 different colors of this chicken toile. Chicken wire, oh man, this is another thing that we just joke about because we sell tons of chicken wire and we have to reorder it, and we've been reordering it for 23 years. It's just hilarious. And here's another chicken wire and another all over chicken. So, colorful chickens are kind of fun to play with when you're sewing. Now, I did want to mention something. Do you know who Tim Natar is? If you've gone to some quilt exhibits in the last few years, you may have seen some of her work. She makes these wonderful, uh, 2-inch square collages. And now she's working with Henry Glass, and they are producing fabric out of her images, her animal images. So this is a panel that's coming out later this year, might be this summer, might be June or July, where she's taken several of her chicken portraits and put them all together, and she's called it Zooming Chickens, which I thought was quite clever. I saw her giving a lecture to our local quilt guild today. And of course, the topic of eggs, we all have to start thinking about where are we going to get our eggs from and how much are we going to have to pay when we make Easter eggs this year, right? So if you can't afford to buy eggs, you can buy egg fabric and you can buy Easter egg fabric and chicken fabric, right? Okay, so I'm going to share some images from my trip to Kauai and I'm going to tell you a little story. So when you come to Kauai, one of the things that you notice right away, as soon as you come out in the airport, is that there are chickens everywhere. And what's really funny is there's kind of this tourist evolution that you go through when you arrive at the Kauai airport, because you immediately start to see chickens where you pick up your luggage, where you go to pick up your rental car, where you come out to catch the tram to go get your ride or whatever. And so you immediately take photos or video because they're like everywhere. And it's really, it's more than Maui. So when you go to other islands in Hawaii, you'll see chickens. Like we always thought it was funny. We'd go to Target and there were chickens in the parking lot. But in Kauai, it's on a whole other level. And I will tell you why. So by the time you come into town, you've seen plenty of chickens and you start to realize that there are chickens everywhere. And in this case, in the top of this image here is a giant chicken sculpture that we saw when we went to the Kauai Coffee Company. Let's see. Oh, here's the next picture. Yeah. We also went to the Smith Botanical Gardens, and of course, there were chickens everywhere there. And we got a big kick out of that. Sophie went with me. And even on the beach, there are chickens. So these are known as jungle fowl, and they are evolved from wild chickens, and they just run wild and free all over the island now. And they're very colorful. Apparently, there is an issue now. I just saw this afternoon in an article in the Smithsonian that the jungle fowl, the original wild chickens, are starting to interbreed with domestic chickens, and that is apparently a problem. This is when we went up to Waimea, which is a state park, and you can drive all the way to the end of this really rutted pothole road and have this spectacular view of the Nepali coast, which this time of year you can't really get to by boat because the water is too rough, but you can go up to this overlook and look down on the Nepali coast. And there's an old lodge, the kind of thing you would see here on the mainland, like if you go to Yellowstone, for instance, an old log cabin lodge. It was really cool. It was kind of like summer camp. But this this was the entrance to get into the lodge, the gift shop and the restaurant, and it was guarded by all of these chickens, and we literally could not get in because there were just so many chickens blocking the way, which is kind of hilarious. And of course, there's chicken art everywhere you go, and that was the view from our hotel. But if you look down, there were chickens everywhere. So here's the story of the chickens. I'm going to give you two parts of the chicken story. So apparently the Polynesians brought these jungle fowl chickens, which originated in Asia. When they came to the Hawaiian Islands, they brought the chickens with them. And they turned them loose and they just expanded and their population exploded on all of the islands. Well, when the colonizers came later and they started to grow sugarcane, then other ships, the colonizers' ships brought rats, and the rats were taking over. And so they had this brilliant idea to bring mongoose to kill the rats. But unfortunately, rats are nocturnal animals and mongoose like to hunt during the day. So what the mongoose did was they completely wiped out all the nesting birds, including the chickens on the Hawaiian Islands, except for Kauai, because as the story goes, who knows if it's true, but it's a good story. I'll go with this. The mongoose that were being offloaded from a ship in Kauai bit the hand of the guy who was taking them off the ship, and he got mad and threw them all in the water, and they all drowned. So there were no mongoose that made it to Kauai. So this is why Kauai is overrun with these chickens. And on our very last afternoon, if you've ever traveled to Hawaii, you probably know that there are evening flights, and then you take a red-eye flight and you fly back to the mainland. And so on your last day, you usually have some time to kill. So we went to the blowhole. This is a place where the ocean waves come up and blast through these holes in the lava on the beach and make these spouting blowholes. And speaking of spouting, we also watched a group of 4 whales offshore here that were also spouting. So that was our fun afternoon. But as we sat there having our lunch, we were again surrounded by chickens. In fact, there was one young rooster who jumped up on the table and we had to shoo him away several times because he just did not want to leave us. So our family history with Hawaii, my name is Hawaiian because my dad was in the Navy on Midway and spent a lot of time in Hawaii in the 50s. So I was blessed with this Hawaiian name, and then I ended up marrying a man whose family lived in Hawaii. So we would go, I would take the kids to go and visit his parents and his aunt and uncle, and later his sister and her two kids lived on the Big Island. His parents lived on Oahu. So for 25 years, we visited Hawaii and went to see Grandma and Grandpa and went snorkeling at dawn on Fridays with Uncle Jerry and the group of octogenarians. Some of you who live on Oahu may have read about them in the paper or seen on the news. Uncle Jerry and Aunt Laura are gone now, but of course, Hanuma Bay is still there. Perhaps some of you have gone snorkeling there. Unfortunately, the coral reef has died from what I've heard from being loved too much from tourists going out on the coral reef. And even though there are signs that say do not walk on the coral reef, the tourists do it anyway. And of course, there's the sunscreen that has killed off the coral. So we can only hope that with time, maybe the coral reef will regenerate. But we have a long, long history of visiting Hawaii and having a connection to Hawaii. And this time when I visited, I went to visit one of, oh, I should turn off this image. Sorry. Here, now you can see me. This time when I was in Kauai, I went to visit one of our longtime customers there. And it was really wonderful to see. She's been ordering from us at least since 2004. She had a binder full of all the receipts of all the fabric she's ever ordered from us. And she insisted on giving me a quilt, and I insisted on paying her something for it. But it was, I'll show you this quilt sometime soon. It was a quilt made with hexagons of scraps from all the Asian fabrics that she has bought from us over the years. And she lives in the uplands at the foot of a mountain that's considered a vortex by the local people, by the indigenous Hawaiian people who live there. And so she told us all about that and showed us all of her stash of fabrics that have come from Equilter. And I mentioned this in the newsletter. You may have read this, but she said, yeah, Equilter is my trade secret. People always ask, where do you get all these beautiful Asian fabrics? But I don't tell them because it's my secret. So now you know the secret. You know, when we started our business, we started in the basement of my house with about 300 or 400 bolts of Asian prints and batiks. And then our business exploded overnight from there. But that's the basis of our business is Asian prints and batiks. And that, of course, goes back to when I lived in Asia. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed my little story about the chickens. And I'm back in Colorado, and we've got lots of snow on the ground. So we're just dreaming of those beautiful warm days in Hawaii and bundling up. And the next big trip that I'm taking is to go to QuiltCon. So I hope to see many of you in QuiltCon. So that is it. I will say goodbye for now. It's been wonderful to have some time to connect with you again. It's been a while since I've done one of these streaming videos. So hope you're keeping warm. Hope you can get all the eggs you need and all the fabric you need. And I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.